This is The Recap, a weekly reflection on the sermons of Fellowship Baptist Church in Mainville, Ohio, seeking to help you make Jesus essential in every aspect of your life. I'm your host, Ryan Land, and I'm here with the preacher of this week's sermon, Brent Wilson. Brent, welcome back.
Good to be back.
I feel like I need a new question to ask you every week, but I can't come up with one. I just say, hey, welcome back. Good to have you back.
Well, we're back.
It's like Larry.
It's been a week.
You know, it's like when someone comes back to Larry King, he's like, "Welcome back." You know, he's like, "Thanks for coming back to the show." But I don't have to thank you for coming back. You want to come back.
That's true.
I'm actually also now spiraling in my mind because I realized I didn't come up with an icebreaker question.
Oh, we got to start over?
No, it's fine. Keep it in.
We just got to go.
No editing. Who cares? This is real.
We're one take.
This is real.
There's no editing ever.
This is okay. I don't know about ever.
Maybe once.
But there's definitely been a couple of times. You got an icebreaker question related to the sermon?
What was my sermon about?
Preach the gospel and necessary use words.
Yeah.
Now we can edit, like fast forward through the dead air.
Not good at thinking of that stuff on the spot.
I usually am, but I'm hitting a wall right now.
Like something about words
or like showing off. You know, like because it's like actions.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Well, okay. I got there. Okay.
I'm gonna start doing that every couple of weeks now, just to keep Brent off kilter. Be like, hey, I didn't have one. You come up with one.
So I talked about, I kind of listed some things that people are prone to tell the world about, right? Their opinions, their hot takes about whatever going on in the world. You know, I mentioned vaccines or dyes or politics, right?
Oh, speaking of red dye, I drank a big old icy today at Kings Island, and it had every red dye, 1 through 40 in there. It was so red. My mouth was so red.
So,
I'm not trying to like show off or anything. I'm just saying that's just a fact that happened.
The red man. Why is the red man red?
Don't say that. Oh my God.
That's in a Disney movie.
We have to cut that now.
No.
But we don't have this.
That's one of my favorite Disney movies.
What's the movie?
Peter Pan.
Okay. We don't have the little sensitivity thing before like they do.
People will be fine.
Oh my gosh.
But so my question is, what are you outside of the gospel prone to want to share, shout, speak on?
I'll tell you what it is today.
I know what it is today.
The Superman trailer.
Yeah.
It was so good. I don't know. I'm a this is maybe you wanted a funnier answer. You wanted me to say Superman, but I am like an outrage poster. Like if I see something, I used to be really. I don't really post anything anymore because of this very problem. But it's like anything I see, if I'm like outraged by it, I'm like, it is my responsibility as an informed citizen of a democracy to post this, to make sure people know.
Yeah.
And so, that's what I specifically used to be very, not even political. It didn't have to be political, but just anything that was like, if I was outraged by it, I would post it.
Yeah.
Now it's like, I don't know, movie trailers.
Okay. All right.
No, I am pumped for Superman though. That's for the next couple of months until July 11th. That will be what I am evangelizing towards, is the Superman movie.
Yeah.
What about you?
My gut reaction is to say something about C.S. Lewis, but I don't think that's true. I talk about him a lot. But what I've found myself over the past couple of years, if you've gone to lunch with me, like on a one-off kind of lunch, there's probably about an 80% chance that I somehow got to talking to you about classical education. Not you.
Are you just saying that because you did that today?
No, I didn't do that today.
Oh, I thought you did.
No.
See, I thought you were going to say the television show Justified.
What about it? Did I talk about it a lot?
Yeah, particularly you used to.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Well, yeah, I am a show apologist in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll be like, hey, have you watched this show? Janice Fancher is always getting my show recommendations. And so I'm always going to her and say, hey, you got to watch this.
Oh, yeah. One time Barrett Pack was like, y'all only care about two J's in this building. Jesus and Justified. Because he's like, anytime he's told someone he was from Kentucky, they'd be like, you watch Justified? And they'd be like, no. Like,
Yeah.
it's not required viewing in Kentucky.
Yeah.
But sorry. So.
Oh yeah. So I mean, if I'm not trying to convince you of a show, I'm probably trying to convince you of classical education.
Yeah.
And talking about that. So I do that a lot. I've brought several people over to the dark side of homeschooling over a lunch.
The dark side of homeschooling, or just like, you don't want to say it's the light side of homeschooling?
Nah, dark side schooler. The dark side is more powerful.
Really?
Or at least quicker. You know, Yoda's always like, you know, it's not as strong or whatever. It's like, literally this person went from like not being able to do anything to like super strong because they gave into their feelings.
Man, and isn't that kind of the point? That it's more powerful, but evil?
Yeah.
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 Look, I'm gonna be real. We are gonna have to cut because my notes aren't updating, and so it's just
You can't do it let's just do it from the top of your head. Let's see my
wait. Okay, wait. I think I got it.
Yeah, we're all out of sorts this week.
This is so funny. Okay, I think I got it. No, I got it.
This is the
story of a girl.
No. This is like unscripted. Brent and Ryan off backstage, unscripted. What do you call that?
Unplugged.
Unplugged.
That's what MTV used to do. Unplugged.
Brent and Ryan raw.
Yeah, no edits, no cuts. Yeah, but that's what MTV. Remember, MTV used to do Unplugged.
Oh yeah,
and it'd be like an acoustic set.
I never watched MTV. I was a Christian. I'm just kidding. I just was never into it.
You weren't into music?
No.
Okay. I found it. I found my notes. My notes are legit now. Okay. So the topic of the sermon, preach the gospel, share the gospel, when necessary, use words. How often do you think you hear that?
It's not one that I probably necessarily hear a lot, but I think I see it in practice a lot.
Oh, that's true. How much did you hear it in the past?
A lot. In the 90s, growing up in youth group in the 2000s, I heard it a lot.
Oh, yeah. I remember there was a classroom in our church, our youth classroom, that had that on like a banner.
Oh, really?
In the classroom. Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. And so that's what I was really getting at. It's like I remember growing up, specifically like youth group, hearing that a lot.
Very foundational kind of idea for early 2000s church.
Well, and I think from a perspective that it's just like it's kind of a moralistic teaching because it's actually like more concerned with how you're behaving versus
which kind of makes sense of the 2000
that's
youth group because it's like true love waits and just all that.
It's all like the moralistic.
We were all burning our secular CDs and.
My favorite youth group poster, which is like do you like this band? If so,
do you like AC/DC, you'll like Cutlass or whatever.
Skillet.
Yeah.
I love that stuff. It makes me a little bit nostalgic, but also I'm like, why are we doing that? But yeah, so it's like I think something we I think are particularly people kind of our age range were taught, but
hold on, I got a tangent. I got to go.
But one second. Okay. Let me get this thought out. Luckily, the times I hear it most now are people saying it's bad. So that is
helpful.
That's mostly where I hear it. Yeah. Okay, what's your tangent?
Okay, so tell me this is true for you. So you know how older people, have this nostalgia and love for the songs they grew up with. Mm-hmm. They love, they grew up with Amazing Grace, all these things. They love them. To the test of time, they're great. I don't feel like that's true for me. And I'm okay.
Think about worship music?
When we sing a song that I grew up with, like a Blessed Be Your Name, or an Open the Eyes of My Heart, or a How Great Is Our God, it's kind of cringy to me.
But let me hit you with something.
I don't like it.
Let me hit you with something. We had iPods, and we could listen to our favorite song that was better than the music we were singing in church whenever we wanted. But for before that, it's like you couldn't just listen to your favorite song whenever. It's like unless you had like a cassette, a cassette player. It's like I feel like I would be curious at least if there was a technological aspect to this, that it's like the songs we are nostalgic for are not Christian songs because we could go listen to them at any point and listen to them on repeat and memorize them.
I think there's
for older people that didn't have that as technology, I mean, they had some technology, not the same level.
Yeah. Carrying the records
these were the
around.
songs they were hearing week by week by week, and singing and knowing.
The pool
right?
of songs was smaller.
Yeah, and and so like if you were hearing the same songs every. So anyway,
Well,
that's what I was. I wonder if that has something to do with it.
That probably is a factor, but I also just think they weren't good.
But also, we're not there that old yet.
That,
There might be like there might be.
what I'm curious about is if the songs we're singing now, if I'll like them in 10 years, 20 years, and I think I will.
Yeah, I don't know.
I just think like some of those songs, they're just kind of cheesy.
Yeah, I don't know.
For me.
I don't know. I think there's because I'm kind of having this right now, a little bit where I'm like listening to like Rich Mullins a lot,
Yeah.
and I love it.
Yeah.
Right, and so I have a little bit, but that wasn't really songs we were singing in church.
Yeah.
It's more just like a flavor, a vibe
Yeah.
of music.
Rich is unique a little bit, I think.
Yeah, you're telling me, dude. Go listen to Rich Mullins.
Yeah.
Do it.
Like Sonic Flood, not that
I don't know, Sonic Flood. I listened to a Sonic Flood song the other day, actually.
What?
Nathan sent it to me, and it's the one about the secret place.
In the secret, in the
Yes.
quiet place.
Yeah, that maybe. Anyway, but I was like, yeah, that's not so bad. But like, you're not nostalgic for like Stephen Curtis Chapman.
Not really.
Oh, I am. Like, I'm diving in, I'm going deep.
You were also a little more
Head
church than I
over
was.
heels, I wanna be caught in the rush, lost in the flow. Oh yeah,
In my head, I want.
I love that stuff. But we didn't see that in church. See, it's like there was.
Yeah, that's true. That's
like
true.
CCM existed, so like
Stephen Curtis Chapman is less cringy for me.
Yeah. But I agree with like the songs we sing in church. I'm
Third
kinda
Day's also a little less cringy. That wasn't really worship music.
Yeah, it was just Christian adjacent, sort of.
Like Reliant K, not cringy
This
to me.
is like a special episode.
we
We're not even talking about the
still
sermon.
listen to Reliant K in the car sometimes.
Oh yeah,
And my
With your
kids like
kids?
it. Yeah. Like the mood ring song.
I was really never into Reliant K. I'll be honest. I liked like 3 Reliant K songs.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to put
you into
like
Hawk Nelson?
Yeah, I love Hawk Nelson.
We get
We're
bored,
gonna-
we used to go boarded.
We're gonna have to put a time code in the.
If y'all want to get to
It's
the
like,
real,
if you want to listen to us discuss the sermon, go
skip
to
ahead
this time
7
code.
minutes.
Golly.
All right, sorry. I've just thought about that. I've had that thought for a while, and I needed to say it.
Don't talk to me about staying on track in the podcast, okay?
It's my fault.
Bring it up to Brent. Don't talk to me about it. Okay, so let's go through as we usually do. We have 2 questions, by the way, so we gotta
get to those.
We gotta get to the questions. But let's go through some points of your sermon. I pulled some quotes that you also used and some other stuff that I want to talk about.
Okay.
But we gotta talk about one thing first. That is relevant. Okay.
Okay.
You briefly mentioned.
Oh, I know where you're going.
You can. You know what, Brent? Just take a rest. I'm gonna. Me and the
you got
listeners.
your
We got
soapbox.
this.
Get on that soapbox.
So this phrase, "preach the gospel if necessary, use words," is commonly attributed to a guy named Saint Francis of Assisi or Assisi, and Saint Francis was a Catholic sort of mystic priest. And this is commonly attributed to him. And I will tell you right now, with 100% certainty, he did not say this. 100% certainty. And here's why there's no way he said it. It's not just because like, oh, he may have said it because people have attributed it to him. It's like, no, he didn't say it. He never wrote it down, first of all. So it's all hearsay if it's attributed to him. And here's the reason he wouldn't have done it. So St. Francis of Assisi, he rebuilt what he's known for is there was a parish that had kind of become dilapidated, run down, and it was his mission that he was going to rebuild this chapel, this parish or whatever, and this church. And so he'd wake up, go build go work on it, and then go to bed, and then just do that day by day by day by day by day. And there's a garden there. He's like, he loved the outdoors. There's this unrelated story about him. There's like this man-eating wolf, like that was running around town, and he tamed it and like kept it.
No.
Yeah, and so which is pretty cool. But one of the things he's known for is that people would come to visit him, and he would be preaching with no one around. He would be preaching the gospel, talking about Jesus, talking about salvation, all this stuff, just be preaching. And they'd be like, who are you talking to? And he's like, whoever will listen, the birds. And so it's like, there's this notion. So I have this icon of St. Francis in my in my office, this like sort of painting of him. And there's birds flying behind him because there was this idea that's like he would preach to whoever was listening, even if it was just the birds. And so it's so out of character for people to attribute this quote about not preaching with words to this guy who would literally preach to no one using words.
Yeah.
So he didn't say it. So don't say he said it.
I didn't say
It'll
he did.
tick me off. If you come up to me and you say, you know that St. Francis of Assisi quote?
That's what Ryan will
I'm
post
like,
about.
I will scream that from the rooftops. Stop attributing that to St. Francis. So anyway, I also random thought, I wonder if that's where Pope Francis took his name, was St. Francis of Assisi.
Was he the first Pope Francis?
I don't know.
It's always interesting.
Shout out Pope Leo XIV.
I don't really know why they take a new name.
I think maybe why they take a new name?
Yeah, do you know?
I don't know. Is it sort of like Peter? Like because Peter got a new
maybe.
name?
I
And
don't
I don't know.
Catholics.
Because he
let us
renamed
know.
like you are Peter, right? That's when he renames him.
Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
could be.
If you're Reformed Catholic or current Catholic that's listening, justification by faith alone. Also, why do they rename the Pope? This is a weird day. We're 20 minutes in. All right. So first point, one.
And we're here to entertain the people as well as
educate.
inform them.
Educate and entertain. One, without the gospel, no one can be saved. Particularly, you emphasized in this point, ignorance is not an excuse.
Yeah.
So help us unpack that. Help us think through that. Because in youth ministry, this is a question that kind of comes up a lot. You know, you talked about the man on the island.
Yeah.
So walk through that kind of, and even maybe a little bit your personal sort of growth and understanding of the man on the island. You know, did you ever wrestle with that question?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Particularly in seminary, we have this sense of like fairness. You know, I don't know if that's an American West thing or just a human thing, but we like fairness. And so when we hear this idea that if someone has never had the opportunity to believe because they never knew, and they're going to go to hell because of their lack of opportunity, we think that's unfair. Therefore, we don't like it. It bothers us. But I think what I'd like to say is the gospel is unfair in the sense that grace, like you deserve justice and you're getting grace. It's unmerited. It's not because you didn't get it because it's fair. We got to give it to everybody, right? It's you didn't earn it. You didn't deserve it. You were granted it by grace. And so the reason, and it's also the reason people, I think this is actually important. The reason people go to hell isn't because of a lack of faith in Jesus. They go to hell because of their sin.
Right.
And that's an important distinction. Jesus is the medicine to the problem. People go to hell, not for a lack of medicine. Because you don't want to say, they died because they didn't have chemo. No, they died of cancer.
Yeah.
Right? They didn't go to hell because they didn't have Jesus. They went to hell because of their sin. Jesus would have saved them from their sin.
Yeah.
And so ignorance doesn't get you out of the deserving justice problem.
Yeah. Well, it's based on the assumption that we actually don't need to be held accountable for our sin, right? And that's like, oh, we should actually all just get off scot-free, you know? And it's just it's like, it comes down to a fundamental misunderstanding of like what the gospel is.
Yeah.
And so, and especially I think dangerous when you have people saying things like the only sin that condemns you is like a lack of faith or a lack of belief or whatever. It's like, it's not true.
Yeah.
It's like, it's the weight of your sin, of all your sin.
Yeah. What you're speaking about there is this faulty notion that the atonement, which is when we talk about Jesus down on the cross, that is, he's making atonement. Some people have this, what I think is a faulty idea, that atonement covers all of the sins of the world except unbelief, and therefore people are going to hell based on their unbelief. And I don't think that's true. I think the Bible doesn't ever talk about that. The Bible says you're condemned because of your sin.
Yeah, and so talk about the man on the island. Kind of just run us through the biblical argument for why The man on the island is
Yeah, so the man on the island guy who is, he doesn't know anything about the gospel, anything about Jesus.
The Amazonian tribe, right?
Yeah.
That we've unreached.
Complete ignorance. Why is this guy going to help?
I like the coconut god, by the way. That was pretty funny.
So Paul's making the argument in Romans 1 and 2 that imagine a little fairy follows you around your whole life and writes down everything that you ever...
Like Zelda?
Yeah. It writes down everything you either thought was wrong, said was wrong, believed was wrong, and you were judged only by the list of those things.
This is Romans 2, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were judged only by the list of those things that you believe were wrong. You're still guilty. So his point is your conscience condemns you. So even, he says, those who have the law will be judged by the law, and those without the law are judged by their own consciences. And so they're still guilty. And so he says, therefore, you're without excuse.
Yeah.
So you have two things that are condemning you. The creation should indicate to you there's a creator. And then you should go.
Well, it does.
It does.
Not that it should. It does.
Yeah, it does. But it should cause you to go figure that out, I guess. So the creation and your conscience both tell you there's something you got to go figure out and do.
Yeah.
And so those things condemn you. Now, there's some people who believe in what's called inclusivism, which is this idea that you can look at the creation and go, oh, there's a creator, and I have the knowledge to figure anything else about that, but I believe in a creator. I believe that there is a God, and that's enough knowledge to save you. And I don't think that's at all what Paul is saying. Paul is saying the opposite. It's only enough information to condemn you.
Is what I was about to add.
And so,
Yeah, well, and I think if you balk against that, if you really if that makes you deeply uncomfortable, good, that should make us uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because there are people who are dying.
It should grieve you at least.
Yeah. But there are people who are living and dying, never hearing the name of Jesus, never the opportunity to be saved. But what that grief does not turn us to is just being mad at God or angry at God or calling God unfair. Actually, it should motivate us to is how do we get the gospel to those nations?
Yeah, which is Paul's point throughout all of Romans. That's why he gets to 10 and does that.
Right.
And I do think, you have biblical arguments, right? The text, you have theological arguments. So the text is Romans 1 and 2, the theological argument about the moral law, understanding all those things. Then you also have logical arguments, right? And so I made this one. It's like, if it be the case that ignorance of the gospel guarantees you a spot in heaven, we should never tell.
We should burn every. I thought you were going to say with this. It's like we should burn every Bible.
Yeah, well,
we should make it the best kept secret of all time.
Yeah, because then everyone will go to heaven.
Yeah,
and the absurdity of that notion proves the point. Obviously, that's not true.
Yeah. So someone leaned over and asked me this during the sermon. What does this mean for babies?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Or people that lack sort of the mental capability of understanding the gospel or sin or morality or anything like that.
I thought about
what do you think?
I thought about addressing this.
Just a lot to address in one sermon. So
two things. One, babies and those mentally handicapped, their level of conscience is different.
Well,
and so that whole argument about their conscience is condemning them isn't necessarily true.
Yeah.
Now, I want to say they're still guilty, both of original sin, which we're condemned for original sin, which is Adam's sin to us, and just sin. Like they're
no, of course. They're not without sin.
Yeah.
But they're
so they're deserving of condemnation. We got to be clear about that. But I think because of the lack of their conscience, and because of the goodness of God and the love of God, that He somehow saves them apart from faith in Christ, but He unites them to Christ in some other way. We see an example of this with David's baby that dies, and David, seems to believe that he's going to see this baby again.
Yeah, I told the person that asked, implied in Paul's argument of Romans 2 and the end, the end of 1 and the beginning of 2, is that you have the capability to reason from creation in your own conscience. And so therefore, if you lack that capability, you cannot, it would actually be unjust to hold you accountable.
Yeah.
because you can't reason or
Similar in our own justice system where, if someone is insane,
yeah.
right? There's like this caveat.
Right. And so I think that's pretty, from the logic of the text, I think it's pretty clear to say, implied is a mental capacity for reason and moral judgment. And if you lack that, it's why I tell people I got no age, there's no age of accountability, because kids develop that sort of faculty and capability at different times, right? And so it's it's you can't be it's 5 or 12 or whatever. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
but
it's like accountability of conscience.
Yeah. So I think that was worth it. A good question.
Great question
of that. So then you move into actions are good, but they're not enough. Now I want you to tell a story that you were going to tell that you didn't tell about Dr. Moeller preaching.
Oh, yeah.
And so the point is that actions are good, signs are good. You told the story about the people going swimming in the shark infested waters,
the riptides.
The riptides, yeah. It's oh, nice flag,
yeah,
swimming out there. So, so then signs are important, but they can be misconstrued.
They lack
clarity.
Yeah, clarity.
Yeah. Precision. So tell the story about
I
Dr.
didn't tell
Moeller.
it because I've told it before. But Dr. Moeller, the president of Southern Baptist Seminary, he's preaching at this church. He's got the choir, the choir behind him. Sometimes the choir stays up there while he's preaching. So his wife is up there preaching or listening to him preach. Someone has a heart attack in the middle of the service. They kind of stop. People run in, help him out, take him out. Ambulance comes, gets him, takes him away. At one point, then he continues to preach. One of the doctors that was there, just in the church that was helping, kind of opened the back door and kind of just looked at Moeller and gave him one of these, kind of like a safe, baseball safe symbol. Yeah. And Moeller continues to preach and goes on, interprets that as he's good, he's safe. Yeah. He gets in the car to go home, and his wife is fuming, and she goes, "You are the most arrogant, selfish, self-centered, pig-headed man I've ever met in my life." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" And she's like, "This man died in the church, and you just kept preaching like it didn't. Like you were the most important thing." And he says, "Wait a minute. The guy came in the back and he said that meant he died?" She goes, "Yeah, that means he died. He's dead." And so they turn the car around, go back, find the doctor, and goes, "Doctor, what does this mean?" And he's like, "It means he's safe. He's good. It's all fine." He's like, "Oh, okay." And so just two people saw the same sign, thought it meant something different.
Totally opposite things.
Yeah.
Even.
And so just the interpreting things that are not articulable, there is a lot of room for misconstruing those things.
Yeah. So then applied to this notion of preach the gospel if necessary, use words. How can we, what is that supposed to teach us?
Yeah. So it's
about this teaching.
You are putting on, or, you're living this Christian life among your coworkers, for example, or your extended family or whoever. And you're not getting drunk when they're all getting drunk. You're not cussing like a sailor, like when they're all cussing like a sailor. You're joyful. You're doing all these things. And you just think everyone sees this shining light off of you. And of course they've got to know and be drawn to it, and they're rejecting it and they're wrestling. And really they just think you're weird. Or you're just a person. Like they're not wrestling or thinking about it at all. Like you may think it's doing something, it's not.
Yeah. And I think even like more so now, I think it actually may even have a unintended, I don't know, like pushing away effect, right? It's like if you're like this moralistic, upstanding person, right? These other people feel
judged
less than or judged or in and so I think even sometimes it can have a repelling effect,
particularly when they don't know. They may think that you're snooty.
Yeah.
And you're looking down on all of them.
Yeah.
right? They don't know.
Yeah, especially I think in a post-Christian
Yeah.
where Christianity is seen as bad and evil.
Yeah.
Like not good, not even good for the world. I
Yeah.
think people could see that and be like, "Oh, this dude."
But see, that even presumes that they know you're a Christian,
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
And so it's like, if they know you're a Christian and then you're living your life a certain way, those things should go hand in hand, right? Because you've told them you're a Christian, you've told them something about Jesus, and now they're seeing your life, and those things the life should confirm the things that you've said are true. And so they should work together, but the words have to.
Yeah. But I think someone could understand you're a Christian without you telling them, right?
They can make the assumption.
Right.
Yeah.
You could have a cross necklace on. You could,
yeah.
it's like they can make the assumption about it, right?
Yeah.
And so I do think you're right, and that's they've got to work together, right? You can't just go like preach the gospel all the time and then not
And be a jerk.
Yeah, just not live according to Jesus' principles or anything. But I do think there is this reality that we're going to have to deal with, I think, and especially in regards to like our ethical behavior as like a testimony to the truth of the gospel, is that we have to convey to people, I actually don't have it all together. Like I actually am not perfect. I actually am not, and what that does not mean is like, so every fifth time they go out and get drunk, go with them and do it, right? To show that
that's not what it means.
Yeah. And, but I think they're in the post-Christian West, there's going to have to be, it can't just be like moralistic living all the time in front of them and talking about Jesus, right? There has to be some acknowledgement, I think, of your own, like to be persuasive, right? I'm not saying to be faithful.
I'm broken. That's why I need Jesus.
Yeah. I'm not saying to be faithful, just to be persuasive.
Well,
there has to be this acknowledgement of like sin and brokenness, and because that is actually what people are going to be like, oh, I feel that too.
Yeah. The other thing that's interesting in this kind of post-Christian reality is people think they know what Christianity means, and they don't. And so they're making you wear your cross necklace to work, and you kind of think that's saying something, but they interpret that, and their understanding of Christianity is foreign to what you think Christianity is.
Yeah.
And so
it's like
they don't line up.
It's like Darcy was telling us a story. She goes into the bank the other day, and the tellers are all talking about.
This was crazy.
Are all talking about the Bible or something, and the guy in the bank is like, I got all these businesses that I run, and I would never be able to run them without all the women that support me and all the women that work for me. And he's like, and they could run it without me, but I couldn't run it without them.
Yeah.
And this woman kind of snide says, well, don't you read your Bible? Like, the Bible says women are inferior to men.
Yeah.
And just kind of making fun of
and she's wearing a crystal.
Yeah. And so just kind of like making fun of and it's like, that's not what it says. Like that's actually never the point of the Bible. And so that's like just a perfect example of just out in normal life, going to the bank. Yeah. It's like, you're going to hear Christianity misconstrued by its opponents, probably just as much as you're going to see it misapplied by its adherents. Yeah. So I do think that's a challenge.
So you cannot assume people, it's like when you're in a debate, you always define your terms, right? Because if not, we're talking past each other.
What do you mean terms? I'm just kidding.
Terms are, and so in the same way, it's like, don't assume when you use words or concept, Christianity, gospel, that people know what you're talking about. Like,
yeah.
Could disagree
for sure. And so you do need the words, but it's like, you probably need more than that. It's like you need clear, you need like super clarity,
you need
almost.
Definitions.
Yeah. And so this is why I think evangelism happens best, not only, but happens best in terms of established relationships, right? With your neighbors and your coworkers and, your family. It's like that's when it works best. Yeah. And when I say works, I don't know what I mean by works.
Success,
actually.
Right?
Yeah. I don't really buy into that. It's like, obviously if there's in some sense, if you're being evangelistic and you're sharing the gospel, you're being successful, right?
Yeah.
But I think effective evangelism to convey the totality of the gospel message is going to have to happen in some established relationship,
particularly in the post-Christian West.
Yes.
When you go to a pre-Christian place, That's less true.
Yeah, Darcy told me a story one time about in South Carolina. She was talking to a friend who had a coworker that was not a Christian, and this person didn't know what like repent meant, and like never heard the word.
Yeah.
And that's like we teach kids that at Vacation Bible School.
Yeah.
It's like, but there are people out in the world, they don't even know what the word.
But when you think about it, it's like, that's a weird word we don't use a lot.
Yeah, no one uses that word. Yeah. And so it's just, we have lots more work to do than we used to. Like, we had the language, right? Yeah. Everyone kind of had this shared understanding. Mm-hmm. But now that's totally by the wayside. And so we definitely need more than actions because we need more than words. We need definitions. We need conversations.
Yeah. Which it's kind of reminds me of this, churches used to be named things like Gilead and Mount Carmel and these things. And it's like, why were they named that? Well, because the whole culture of America knew what that was. Knew the Bible. Oh, Mount Carmel, that's where Elijah kept on the fire, right? And so it's like, these were biblical names that people associated with.
Now they hear it and they're like, is that candy bar?
Yeah, they're like, Gilead, what's that?
Mount Carmel. I don't even like caramel.
Yeah, Mount Caramel. And so, just our whole Caramel. Bible knowledge has gone down as a society. And so obviously words like repentance or even church lingo, like asking Jesus into my heart, people don't know what that means.
Yeah, don't use that phrase anyway, but read the book, Stop Asking Jesus into Your Heart. It's a great book. So we need more than actions. Your third point, faith comes by hearing, right? That's Paul's point in Romans 10.
Yeah.
So the gospel must be spoken. Seems pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, we got to articulate. I mean, we've kind of been talking about it, right? It's like your life, you think it's holding up a sign, but really it's a blank sign. Mm-hmm. People know you're holding something, maybe. Mm-hmm. They just don't know what it says. They don't know what it means. And so you must articulate. You have to define your terms and speak and explain and argue and walk through it.
Yeah. And gosh, I feel like we come back to this a lot, but what it makes me think of is like celebrity, like Christian sort of conversions.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And then it's like, it's like all it takes is like some pop star or whatever to like talk about Jesus one time.
Yeah.
And we're like, whoa, that person's a Christian. That's awesome. But then we go to our workplace or whatever.
Yeah.
And we're like, hopefully they just know by how I act, which is totally the reverse of what we do to other people is that we're like, no, I want to see that this person's a Christian.
Yeah.
And like after they proclaim it, I want to see them.
Yeah.
But then when we're thinking about how people are looking at us, we're like, they'll probably just get it by what I do, right?
Yeah.
Like we're like, yes,
yeah,
Kanye West, he said it out loud. That's so brave or whatever. Yeah. And then you go to work and you're like, but I'm really nice to Carol at the front desk, and it's just, it's the total opposite, right? Of what we expect from other people. When we put that expectation on ourselves, we're like, I don't want to say anything. I'll just do the thing.
Right.
And why do you think that is? Like, why do you think it's easier to just like, almost like beat your body into like moralistic, obedience than it is to just like,
I think there's a lot of reasons. I think a lot of it boils down to we're not intimate with the information. If you're a guy and you love football and you're like right now in May, you're watching press conferences about rookie minicamp. You can go talk to your buddy about these Bengal players that aren't signing their contracts right now, and Trey Henderson, who's not going to play if he doesn't get a like. You can talk about all those things because you're listening to it every day, you're watching it every day, you're intimate with the information. And I think because Monday through Saturday, we're not really thinking about church. Maybe we go to church 2 times a month, 1.7 times a month, whatever, and we're not intimate with the information. We meet this person that they don't know Jesus, and we're like, well, there's a cross and you're a bad person and it just can't roll off the tongue.
Yeah.
Like whatever we're passionate. That's why I kind of made the point later in the sermon about, you get on there and you rail about on social media, you rail about dyes or vaccines or politics or football or whatever you're passionate about. And I'm not even speaking about the moral nature of any of those things, the right or wrong. So you know about that thing, you care about that thing, and so you're educated about that thing, and so you can just talk about it. You can just talk about it. You have all these stats, all this information. And it's like, but when it comes to Jesus, you're like, oh, I might say the wrong thing. It's like, well, if you did the same amount of research and reading and thinking about Jesus as you did the other thing, it would just flow.
Yeah. What is interesting, I I was sitting here thinking, people maybe just assume we sit around and talk about the Bible or talk about Jesus all day because we work at a church, which is not really true. But I will say, like the other day, I was watching this debate with Gavin Ortland and this Mormon guy, and they were talking about the Trinity or whatever. And so I came over to your office and I was like, hey, like, did you know, like, Mormons don't believe in creation ex nihilo, and they believe in eternality of the soul. And we're like talking about that, mixing that up or whatever. But then it's like today, like there's like a Marvel trailer and there's like a Superman trailer, and we're like talking about that or whatever. And it's like, so there is, I think, almost even a 1-to-1 correlation about like what you intake is going to result in what you put out. Right. And so
what you inhale is what you exhale.
Yeah. Well, it's actually not true, but
what do you mean?
Well, you inhale oxygen, you exhale carbon dioxide.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. Listen, I thought I was going to preach for a minute. Like you inhale smoke, you're going to exhale smoke.
That's true, but there's also going to be some carbon dioxide in there. But it's like, so I think that's really well taken in that it's not even just about Bible reading. Right. It's not even just about prayer. It's like, it is about those things.
Just reading, like all of the things. Right.
But it's like, if you've got 15 minutes, right, would you rather go watch, in a endless scroll of reels about
that's what we do.
Whatever? Or would you rather, commune, right. Or learn something new about the gospel, learn something new about the Bible, learn something new about who God is. And not with just the like, I'm going to put the knowledge up here, but with the intention of that's going to help me communicate it to someone else later on down the road.
But when people are going down YouTube rabbit holes about whatever thing they're into, they're not thinking, man, I really got to watch this stuff so that I can tell people. They're just fascinated by it.
Yeah.
And they just want to learn more about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, why aren't you like that with Jesus?
Maybe that's like the question we all need to answer is like, how do we become fascinated with God? Like, how does God become intriguing to us? Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
That like, we want to know more. And I think that's maybe up to every individual person.
Yeah.
Right.
Reminds me, you were talking about the West Wing, one of the greatest television shows ever the other day.
Maybe
like that quote where he's like, be curious.
No, that's Ted Lasso.
Was it Ted Lasso?
Yeah.
Also a great show.
Yeah.
But so be curious.
Like, don't be judgmental, be curious.
Yeah. And it's like, ask really, like the man on the island is a curious question. Right? It's an intriguing, fascinating. And then you can go down a rabbit hole about how does that work?
Yeah. And so I think all of us will be intrigued or curious about different aspects of Christianity. Right. And so that's why we have each other. Right. It's because we're curious about different aspects of different things, and so we can learn from not just the Bible but from one another.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a great question to ask yourself is like, man, what am I going to be curious about God in this season of my life, in these coming months, right? This summer, right? What am I going to be curious about as I read my Bible or whatever? I think that's good motivation just to get it in your bones.
Yeah.
And that's going to result in that input is going to inevitably result in output.
Yep.
Okay. So faith comes by hearing, so the gospel must be spoken. Then you say saving faith requires understanding the gospel. So kind of two parts to this. What does that look like? What does that mean, understanding the gospel? But then also kind of just walk us through the definition you gave of gospel really quickly. And I'll add this. Why is this so important? Getting this word right.
Well, yeah. It's a junk drawer word. We don't so often we don't know what it means. It's kind of like repentance, like the gospel. It's a weird word, and so we have exchanged it for things like ask Jesus into your heart, and so we have caricatures of the gospel, not the content of it. A lot of times, I grew up in a generation, particularly where we would have some fun event, and it was like, hey, if you're going to die tonight when you leave here, and you don't want to go to hell, raise your hand, pray this prayer.
Everybody, close your eyes.
Yeah, make Jesus your Lord and Savior. I mean, we all did that 100 times, and so we just understand the very basics of, and sometimes the basics are okay, but we understand caricatures of the gospel, and so there's a possibility that if you might think you understand the gospel and believe it, but you actually don't, because you don't actually understand the message.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I ask people all the time, what's the gospel? I'm like, well, just trying to live a good life, follow Jesus. Oh, nope.
Yeah.
Wrong.
Yeah.
And so my definition is the life, death, and burial and resurrection of Jesus, right? The good news is what Jesus has done. What good news has he done? What's he done that's good news? Well, he's died for our sins. He's raised from the dead. He's defeated sin and death and Satan. And so his victory can become my victory. And so the big issue is my sin. The big solution is Jesus has done something to get rid of it.
I wish there was a translation of the Bible that when it said good news, because like they say good news a lot, that it just said the word gospel. I think it'd be helpful. So, just to give us some consideration of what it actually is.
Yeah.
I bring you gospel of great joy.
Yeah.
That's the first one that came to mind. So I think that's interesting. So Christ's death, birth, death, burial, resurrection, not ascension.
Sure.
I like to add ascension in there. I think it's important. But so what does understanding mean? What do you mean when you say faith, saving faith requires understanding?
Well, I want to be clear that the gospel is shallow enough for a 5-year-old and deep enough for an 80-year-old to be lost in it. And so by understanding it, I just mean to grasp I'm a sinner and to grasp Jesus somehow paid that sin on the cross and was vindicated by God raising him from the dead. And believing in that can take my sin away and it can be forgiven. Like that, just most basic concept. That's got to be understood. If all you know is, well, I asked Jesus into my heart. Well, who's Jesus? Well, he was God. Okay. What did he do for you? I don't know. He loves me. That's not enough. Like him loving you is true, but if that all you know is that he loved you, he actually did something. You understand what he did? Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a danger in resting on just knowing good and true things. Like that's like, oh yeah, like God is out there and he made everything and Jesus died on the cross so that we could all live good lives, or whatever. And it's like, no, like, like there's, it's like being close, right? And this is so important. We don't want to be close. We want to be right. And so I do think, I think you're right, to say that it's shallow enough, right? Like I told someone this week, when someone comes up to me and tells me, they want to be baptized, they think they've been saved. I want to hear mainly two things. I have sin and Jesus died for it. And so I need Jesus to save me, right? Like that's like the natural. Yeah. Like this is I have sinned. Jesus died for sins. So I need to make him Lord. Yeah. Right. That's kind of like I need to hear. I don't need to hear all this like color and nuance about the Trinity or about about the hypostatic union.
Yeah. It's like when I do church membership interviews, I'm like, hey, tell me your story. Tell me how you came to know Christ. And they'll usually, which I love to hear their stories, right? I get their life story. But sometimes. Particularly if it's like after church, we're in a hurry, and as soon as they kind of say those buzzwords, I'm like, all right, we good.
Yeah. It's like that's what I want to hear, right? Yeah. It's like that's the under.
And when they start the story off with, well, I figured I had to get baptized and be a good person and follow Jesus and read my Bible. I'm like,
time out. It's like those NFL ads. Time out.
No, wrong.
Yeah. So it's not about a deep theological understanding, just an understanding of reality.
Yeah.
That you're a sinner.
Yeah.
Who Jesus died for. And to be united with him, you have to repent of your sin, make him Lord. Yeah. Right. That's simple, right? It's 3 steps. So lastly, God has sent you to proclaim the gospel, right? Yeah. So walk us through that. Focus on, I think, this idea that we have as a church, that every member is a missionary.
Yeah. It's both true that every member is a missionary and
this is helpful
and true that we're not always good at being missionaries.
Yeah.
One thing that's fascinating when you are a missionary and you go to this country, you're super strategic, right? It's like, hey, we're going to start this coffee shop for the very purpose to provide for our family, but then really so that we can meet people and talk to them about the gospel. or we're doing whatever. We have a strategy for how we're going to meet people and talk to them about the gospel.
Even in Overland, when we were in Durango at the church plant there, they were telling us like, oh, you need to go to this restaurant. And because it's really good, but also tell them we sent you.
Yeah.
Because we have been talking to these people. We know their kids. We've been with they were out of town this week and now they're back. And it's like, they're intentionally building relationship with these people that are not connected to their church for the express purpose of not getting them to church, but
so maybe it's
Jesus
like
king of their lives.
It's like I intentionally go to eat at the same 3 places and intentionally meet the people who work there, run it, own it, whatever, to foster a relationship.
And Chick-fil-A doesn't count because you have to be a Christian to work there. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, and so they're intentional, and so I think that's the big thing. It's like we're not intentional, and we got to get intentional.
And I think from your challenge at the end of the service, I think that's the good next step is how are you intentionally going to put yourself in a situation with either a specific person or a random how are you going to get yourself in a specific situation with someone just out in the wild, right? To share the gospel with them. Yeah. Are you being intentional or are you just Jesus take the wheel, which he will. He'll take it. He'll make it happen. You just may not have the boldness or you may not be ready when he gets you there. Yeah. But if you're strategic and intentional,
every morning that I've ever prayed, God give me an opportunity to share the gospel.
This is so true. This is so true.
Like one happens and I go,
this is I'm not ready. True. That is so true. And like people will scoff at that or whatever. That is 100% true. Oh, yeah. If you say that, something will happen to you that day and you'll just be like, why am I talking to this person? You'll be like, oh shoot.
Yep.
That's why.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, I can't not do it because I asked for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So dangerous prayer. That's a dangerous prayer. And so, but a good one.
Yeah.
What I loved the Spurgeon quote. Let me read the Spurgeon quote really quick and just get you to expound on it a little bit. The gospel is like a caged lion. It does not need to be defended. It just needs to be let out of its cage. Yeah. Why'd you include that? What?
I want people to know they don't have to have all the answers. We talked about the simple gospel. That's all you got to do. Like you got to get people there. Anything past that is extra credit. It's like that's great. You can do that. Would love for
extra credit on something you already have all of Jesus's righteousness and merit and favor
on something you don't get any credit for. but yeah, it's like it's just bonus, right? It's like if you can have apologetics, if you can talk about the cosmological argument, whatever, that's awesome. But the gospel saves them. Proving evolution is not true doesn't save anyone.
Yeah, it's like I think I already told this story about that Trevin Wax tells about he convinced his buddy that the resurrection happened, and the guy was kind of like, "Oh yeah, I think the resurrection's true. Weird stuff just happens sometimes." And he's like, what do I do with that? It's like I made the argument and he's still not saved.
Yeah. And so I just like when the gospel's out of its cage,
it's going to do its work.
It's going to take off. And so just let her out.
For sure. Well, before we get to questions, any final thoughts about preach the gospel if necessary, use words? We
preach the gospel. Necessary to use words.
Yeah, it's like drop the if.
Yeah.
Preach the gospel. Use words.
Or really just preach the gospel.
Yeah, the whole thing is silly because you can't. Imagine if you just got up there one day and didn't talk.
Yeah.
We'd be like,
it's funny.
What was he trying to communicate?
There's that phrase, actions speak louder than words. Actually.
No, yeah. You were like, they don't because actions aren't words or something.
Yeah,
I was
they don't speak.
I was like, that's so simple, but yeah, of course that's true. Okay, so 2 questions written in. One is about the understanding point. Someone wrote in and asked, how much did the thief on the cross understand the gospel? When we say that saving faith requires understanding, what is the minimum viable understanding of the gospel that can be paired with saving faith?
So the thief on the cross is interesting because he's a little bit of a Old Testament Christian or an Old Testament believer because Jesus, he's like right at the finish line.
The last one.
Have
you seen those memes where it's like the thief on the cross hitting the most historic buzzer beater in history, and it's like LeBron James celebrating.
Yeah,
so funny.
So the Old Testament believers didn't believe in the cross and the resurrection. They didn't know about it. They trusted God for forgiveness of sin through the sacrificial system, So they knew they were sinners. They knew God could forgive their sins if they asked, and that was manifested in the sacrificial system, which ultimately pointed to Christ. And that's how their faith was in Christ. They just didn't realize it. This thief on the cross, he understands who Jesus is.
Yep.
He's not just a man. This is God. He doesn't necessarily understand fully. He doesn't understand the resurrection. It hasn't happened yet. This is why I'm saying he's kind of an Old Testament believer. So he understands Jesus is God. He understands he's a sinner. Like I'm a guilty thief. I'm dying as a and he understands Jesus is doing something. Jesus has the ability to forgive him. He doesn't understand how that works. He doesn't understand the mechanic of it, but he understands Jesus is able to forgive him of the sin. So who he is, sinner, forgiveness.
Yeah, and I think he puts this emphasis that he puts his trust. In Jesus. He makes this request of Jesus and is entrusting him.
Will you remember me in your kingdom?
Will you remember me in your kingdom? Yeah. Not like, he's not asking like philosophically, like, Jesus, when you're in your kingdom, will you remember me? No, he's asking him, will you please remember me when you're in your kingdom? Yeah,
because I know I'm bad. I know you're great. You're awesome.
You're God.
You're God. And I know you can make me right.
I'm hoping this person is asking the question because of the Alistair Begg illustration. Yeah. We ain't got time, but
just go Google.
Just go
Alistair
to YouTube.
Begg.
Alistair Begg, 1L, man on the middle cross. That's all you got to do.
And just watch it.
A supervisor angel. Gosh, it's also not worth it for us to do it because we don't have Cleveland. We don't have Cleveland accents. So
Cleveland accents.
When we saw him, I wanted to ask him really bad. I was like, does everyone in Northern Ohio talk like that? It's like, I'm from Southern Ohio. Okay, second question. This one's more, what am I trying to say? Practical application. In light of the challenge you presented us this week to specifically speak about the gospel with someone, how do you help someone recognize their need for Jesus?
That's really hard. It's even harder if you add the layer that like people think they're religious on some level. You got to convince them they're lost. I do think it depends on the generation.
Oh, for sure.
So if you're talking to someone who is under 40, I don't think you have to, for the most part. I think they already know the world is broken and they're broken. If you're talking to someone older than that, I think you got to go read Genesis 3 and you got to start with the world. Yeah.
That's a great point.
And you say, hey, look at how broken this world is. Like, look at all the, just list bad stuff. You could do the Ray Comfort thing. I don't know what that means. Have you ever lied? What does that make you? A liar. You ever lusted in your heart? Makes you a spiritual adultery. Have you ever stolen anything? That kind of thing. You can't go through the 10 Commandments. You ever broken things. If you've broken one of them, you're guilty of all of them. And so you can do that. And so I think you can start with the world. You can bring up some commands, but ultimately the Spirit has got to show them their need of Him, and so pray that way, show it that way. But if you're talking to someone younger, I'd be surprised if they didn't already think that. Yeah, but would start with the world
for sure. Yeah, that would be my advice. Is to say if you can't convince someone of their own brokenness, try to get them to start thinking about why the world is messed up, and pick their the thing they want to be loud about on social media or whatever, that thing. Like, why does that happen? If you're talking to a more liberal person, it's like, why do people go hungry? Why are people oppressed?
And it's okay to start, when we talk about the gospel, we're usually talking very personal, individualistic, and it's okay to sometimes start cosmically and then work in. So it's like, why are children starving? Why are people being murdered, raped, whatever, bad thing in the world? And it's like, the world's broken, but God has come to fix it. And He's inviting you to be in a world that is perfect, beautiful, and working together. And there's no more of these things. The problem is you're broken and you wouldn't fit in the world God is making. And so if you want to fit in it, you got to let Him fix you. So start with the world and then zoom down to them.
Yeah, I think that's excellent. There's a book, a Dean and Sarah book right? I think it's Dean and Sarah, The Unsaved Christian.
Yeah.
That'd be, if you're looking for a resource, if you're a reader, that'd probably be a good
Mhm.
place to start to read on this.
Another good, two good evangelism books would be Share Jesus Without Freaking Out and Share Jesus Without Fear. They're both good.
Yeah. If you're just interested in sort of general evangelism, maybe a little bit more apologetics. Have you read Tactics? I'm sure you have.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, you probably read it in school.
Yeah.
I also read it in school a little more recently than you did.
Because I'm old.
I'm almost as old. I just went to school later. So it's also a good evangelism, just sort of general evangelism book. But yeah, for particularly the I think the Unsaved Christian thing is addressing this notion of how do you get people to see their need for Jesus when they think they've already fulfilled it. They think they're good. Yeah. And they're not. And so I think that's really hard. It's harder to convince that person than it is to convince the person like lost in their sin, right? Yeah. It's like Jesus was with the prostitutes and the tax collectors because like they knew they were broken, and he was calling out the Pharisees because they were broken. They just wouldn't address it. And so he had to break down that barrier first before he could offer grace and forgiveness. He had to be like, hey, you realize you need it, right? Yeah. So, but those he could just go eat with them because they were like, Jesus, we need your grace. Right. We know it. Right. Any final words of encouragement?
Go do it.
Nike.
Here's the if you're like scared, like I don't know how to do this, go ask questions of people. Mm-hmm. People love to talk
about themselves.
Yeah. So what do you believe? What do you think about heaven and hell? What do you think about religion? What do you think about church? What do you think about God? What do you think about whatever? Ask questions. They'll tell you, and then listen for a while, and then you get a chance to speak.
It's a move I've always wanted to try, and I never have. Is to be like, do you like small talk? Because most people don't. Most people hate small talk. Yeah. And so for someone to be like, no, I hate small talk. And I'd be like, yeah, me too. What do you think about God? Like just like skip all the small talk about the weather or whatever. And be like, you don't like small talk? Let's go to big talk.
Big talk. Try it and get back to us.
I will. Yeah. I'll report back. Well, thanks for joining us for the recap. We hope this conversation has encouraged you to keep striving to make Jesus essential in every aspect of your life. If you aren't part of our church family, we'd love to meet you on a Sunday morning. We gather for worship at 10:30 a.m. For more information, you can always go to myfellowship.church. Thanks for listening. Be blessed.